Yeah. Okay. So that's going. So we can it'll just kind of start whenever. But yeah, have you done like you do public speaking and stuff like that? Is that like
I don't mess with?
It's always just like kind of projecting
Okay.
that in this. So I'd say if you don't even have to put it as close, but like
Just drop her down.
no, a higher. I mean,
Higher? Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm figuring it out
Well,
as I
know
go
when people
too.
are on stage, they cup microphones, and that's
Yeah.
like the worst thing you can do, right?
I don't know.
I
It
don't
could
know.
be.
I'm not going to be holding this thing. I hope.
Yeah. No. God, no. No.
It's going off.
No. So you
Yeah.
don't do? Have you not done much like?
I did
Podcast stuff?
Rory's podcast. Christina, who comes here, I did her show, but that was like a virtual Zoom type deal. With like speaking, public speaking, I do that in like classrooms, so it's just like an intimate setting with students. So
Yeah.
it's just like a university lecture.
So
hall.
is it all the same though? Like, does this kind of not this wouldn't intimidate? Like, do you get nervous for stuff?
I get nervous for like a lot of things, but it's like I always, to me, that's like proportional to how much I want it to go well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that resistance is like
High expectation
it's
type
like
of
the
thing.
equivalent, I would think. Yeah, I always push it like
How often do you do like speaking at schools and stuff?
so I just did
Or I guess it's schools,
yeah,
right?
I
generally?
just did my first university back in the fall at Guelph Humber University. So that was a lot of fun. But before that, it was teaching with the Leads program in Woodstock. I was doing like I was teaching like a recurring class where I would do with disabled children. So I teach them fighting and nutrition and talk about their mental health. So that was like the first day I did that, they just kind of blindly brought me into this room and were like, here's 20 students. And I remember my buddy, he played like some kind of entrance music as a joke.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was so nervous because I'm like,
Hell
who
yeah,
this kid's
I'd
going to be?
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of was winging it, but at the same time, I wanted it to be authentic and genuine. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like a real mental battle to be like.
So like even stuff like that in general, do you you feel like you have an obligation to talk about certain things, or is it like public speaking, like getting up in front of people and like talking to as many people as your goal type of thing? Some with that.
I feel like with my thing, it's like an obligation to maybe use my experiences, but the message is to help other people. It's not about look at me, check this out. I do this. That's not my vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of just like,
Yeah.
here's my anecdotes from my mental health journey, struggles with addiction for a number of years, being in and out of the system. And so I use that as kind of the platform for here's now my system for how I kind of work through that stuff. You know what I mean?
Like, and I'll kind of use that to like, I guess getting right into something like that. Like, it's true. Even you saying that is like, I know. And like, you can tell me kind of how you sum up your, journey / like path on where it's going and kind of why you do what you do. But it's true. Like, I don't necessarily know your journey per se, like I would other people's kind of.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, what you just said
think
about.
you and we clicked up pretty quick and we had things in common, and through common like acquaintances and friends, we just kind of were drawn to each other, I think, naturally. But as far as my story goes, yeah, I think I mean, my parents went through a divorce when I was about 11 years old. That was kind of my first, dose of dealing with my own emotions and depression and things like that.
Yeah.
But I got into martial arts at a really young age, and I was coaching and competing in martial arts for a number of years, probably like 15 years. So when I was getting into university, because I kind of stumbled into deciding that I was going to pick engineering for school.
Yeah.
By kind of default, because doing science and math seemed like the things that my buddies were into, seemed like the commendable, things,
I get it.
I mean?
Yeah,
You're just
totally.
like,
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah.
I'll just choose these things. This is a safe bet here.
For sure. That's probably what a lot of,
Isn't
more
it strange?
people often probably fall into that category than not.
Yeah.
With any kind of like,
You're making a major life decision so young, you're wrapped up possibly in a loan. You're doing all these things. That aside, I mean, I was still competing in martial arts.
Yeah.
Still helping run a karate school, doing the best that I could with that stuff. But it was just a very overwhelming pursuit, not really having the tools to deal with my own emotions.
Sure.
Which at the time I was fairly emotionally dysregulated.
Yeah.
Dealing with anxiety and
Nice
stuff like
loud
that.
train
I love
for
that.
it.
I
I
love
know,
that
eh?
sound.
And they're quick too, so it's not like it lingers around for a while.
It's the Via.
It is. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The fast ones are,
It's always nice to see that when you're driving at the tracks, you see the Via coming.
just cruising, and
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
going to like stop halfway and turn back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, growing up and kind of like not making those decisions and
being quick on it and jumping into it, doing the engineering thing, really liking it and feeling like privileged to even be able to go and do those things. But at the same time, dealing with so many things, I was at the tipping point where the onset of mental illness was really apparent for me right then and there.
Sure.
But I was juggling that.
Like you're kind of aware of it or not really, just like assuming it's like brushing it off, I guess.
I didn't really have the tools at the time to even grasp, like, what was I even dealing with? So drinking all the time, partying, and then trying to like get one foot into the campus and study a little bit.
Yeah.
Then having my priorities all messed up, as we all do. I think that's what college is for.
Sure.
But ultimately, I was competing, came back from a tournament, and just hit a real low point emotionally after losing a big match. Came back, and I remember being really excited about certain things in my life, but also really sad at the same time. And a group of friends confronted me, and they came up and they said, we noticed that things are a lot different for you right now. And one friend in particular, her name was Sheena. She had an uncle who struggled with bipolar disorder, and she picked up on some of the warning signs and knew that I could be having these symptoms congruent with what he had.
Sure.
So she suggested that, and thank God she did, because it changed the trajectory of my life in a big way.
Why did it just click? Where you're like not to like, but someone might hear that and like, I think more often than not, someone would brush it off or chalk it off as like an over-concerned friend. Like, did you have a moment of realization then at that point where you're like, why did you presume her to be have something there when she said that to you?
I think the moment, what I had going on in my mind was more or less just like, get away from me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to believe that.
That's what I mean.
I had a best friend at the time who wanted nothing more to see me succeed, and I had to turn to him, and I blamed him. I said, how could this happen?
Man, that's a loud train.
All good.
I got the window cranked open too, so it's like, it's always weird though. I don't know how much it'll pick up.
Hey, we're downtown. I guess that's how it goes.
No, it's all good. So best friend.
Best friend. So it was a bit of an intervention at the time. Big panel of people stood in front of me, all people I cared immensely about and still do to this day. And they said, we got to talk to you about how you've been doing, because something is just off. And, they were trying to get me to really reflect and have some insight in that moment. I was like, I don't see anything wrong. I'm fine. I'm going out to drink tonight. I'm not changing anything. This is me. This is who I am.
Was it just like going out all like just pedal to the metal all the time type of thing?
Like all the time. Yeah. That was kind of my life for a long time, and many years subsequently after that as well. But I eventually was put into the hospital. I was held there, and they gave me a tentative diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Yeah. So at the time, I didn't even know what that was, right? I didn't know how that really affected me.
And at the time, were you still just like, why am I, like, had you clicked in that, like, this was a path you were on, or you're still like in denial? Not, maybe you weren't necessarily in denial at any point, but
major denial.
Was it like a typical, again, forgive my ignorance, but would it be like a typical, why am I here? Like, I don't belong, like, here, out, all, like, get out, like, this is, I can't take any of this serious because I don't believe in any of it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. Like, doctor came into the room and was like, you need to take XYZ medication. And I would just laugh. I'd just laugh in his face. I remember laughing in a psychiatrist's face.
Sure.
They would send in a resident. The resident would say the same thing. And I'd say, get out of here. I'm not taking anything. I'd never taken a drug in my life, didn't believe in like pharmaceuticals at that point. So it was like, I'm not doing any of this.
Yeah.
Parents were stepping in. You've got to live a routine life. You got to go to bed. Your sleep is critical. All the things that we still know to be true 15 years later, at least I do.
Yeah.
About mental health, was being told to me at that time. But there were some other components, like i.e. an entire system to deal with bipolar disorder that was omitted from that speech from doctors and stuff like that. They didn't know how to deal with that. But yeah, it was tough. In and out of the hospital a few times, held involuntarily, tried to go off medication, still was using, I think I was using mushrooms at the time. I was, whittling down my medication, cutting it in half, thinking like, that's what I'll do. And I think this is, a pattern that repeats itself with a lot of people because they're just, and, by no fault of their own, they just don't, they want to reject the system and like the doctors and things
naturally,
like that, right?
I think,
it just, it happens. But for me, ultimately, I came to the realization that it's just one piece of the puzzle, right? Like taking a supplement in the gym, creatine is not going to save your life.
Yeah,
right?
no. Yeah.
But if it's one thing that helps you, like a pillar towards your success.
Percentage all towards the end, yeah.
It was many years for me to understand that and to also implement other things in my life that would almost affect me more, like my sleep, like training, and doing all these sorts of things. That was just one piece. So I had to kind of find that, navigate in the dark on my own for a little while there. And then, you know, a couple of years later, still in denial, still going through the things that I mentioned, I was off medication, had a falling out with the girlfriend at the time, and found myself in a confrontation with security and police, and was put in jail for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so being in jail, they don't give you any medication. At least I didn't get any medication. And the conditions are pretty inhumane.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
beatings, you know what I mean? There's things that happen in there. And for my story, it pales in comparison greatly to what people go through.
I'm sure.
So I'm always quick to say.
There's always definitely varying degrees, but I mean,
I was there for a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Went through it, didn't sleep for, you know, the majority of those 2 weeks, didn't have medication, didn't get outside very much. It was very difficult. Then I was transferred to another hospital where, you know, friends could visit me, I could be around them. But it was a tough period of my life. But in retrospect, and I think we all get to do this, we get to frame things a certain way. It was really a blessing for me to look at myself and examine what I needed to do next, right?
Yeah. What, like, at what point, like, what do you mean having been in that position after like being in there for 2 weeks, then going somewhere that was like you were forced into a corner?
I think it's a piece that I look back on that may have helped me.
Like some sort of turning point?
At what expense? I don't know. Did it have to go down that road? Probably not.
Wow. It's hard to kind of even look at things that way too, because
it is what it is, and it's what we have. But I think that's what I've ultimately realized is like, that's, you know, you can use those experiences to help others. And so I try to, I touch on that a little bit with my talks with the kids. And
do
stuff
you?
Like
so
that.
like, would you, even what we just, would you tell them, is that part of your, like,
that's part of
the details and stuff like that? Or
I think if you can lead by, you know, showing that you're vulnerable and being open with people, because ultimately with mental health, we have to do that. So when I get in front of the kids, that's what I do. As tough as it is, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Right. But it's cathartic in a way, because I can step back and be like, hey, I got it on the table. And they can use that, right? So, yeah, that's kind of how I approach it.
So what, like, even when you say kids, is it like, do you generally have a typical, I don't even know, audience that you would go, like, is there?
You know, it's tough with mental health. The demographic is so wide.
So I mean, like, how is it just go to schools, or like go to like certain like different programs where it's like?
I mean, the one with Woodstock was a great group of kids that were in a program there. An after school type program. Yeah. And then the one with Guelph Humber, they were third year justice students, justice study students. So they were well on their way to achieving their degree. They were doing a great job. They were transitioning into some of them were staying with mental health, others policing different things.
So it's a perspective thing, or is it like, would you try and implement like systems that you've worked with?
For sure. So I even touch on training, talk about, you know, hormones, talk about sleep optimization, things like that have all helped. Nutrition's a huge component of my talk. We talk about the parasympathetic nervous system, breathing, how you can relax yourself, all types of things that are practical action items that they can take
and use themselves, or kind of also
that's what I'm hoping
pass along as well.
I don't know that, but I know they wrote a number of papers on the talk itself, and a few people came forward to the professor, who's a friend of mine, and they were able to open up and share what they were going through, and actually we directed them to some resources at the time.
Well,
so it has a benefit of reaching a little bit further than just the talk itself.
Yeah, definitely. So, that's good. So would you consider yourself a public speaker? Like, were you in that realm before
I
you know what I mean? Do you enjoy that part of it, or it's just like a duty? Like, no matter whether I like public speaking or not, this is something that I feel that I can provide value, and that's just from
that's
being in front of people person, or doing it for the like. Not that being in front of people is bad or anything like that.
I think it's just one of those things. Like, if that's what it takes to get the message, like, I'm gonna grin and bear it. Yeah. You know, the first time I got out in front of them, I was pretty scared. Yeah. Like, I remember running up and down the stairs prior to the talk, because my friend Laura, she's almost going to be a doctor next year, but she said to me, you know, you have 10 or 15 minutes to get ready when I'm done my lecture, and then you come in. And I was like, all right, I'm going up the stairs. I started doing cardio, and the only reason that I calmed down and got got grounded again is because I had a bit of a pump going. So I was like, okay, now I can talk.
That's hilarious. You know what I mean? It's true though. Like, whatever you got to do, like, and I I asked that too because I would never be able to unless like again you're drawn to something to like that has a bigger purpose than just worrying about being in front of people.
There's a certain confidence. Like if you were to get out and talk about your business and Showtime,
Exactly,
and all the people you've helped, when you get up there and that's your truth, you have a conviction about you that is so genuine.
As long as it's genuine, right? I guess
you have that behind you. You know, you got that belief already, and they're drawn to that. People have that sense about them. They can pick up on what's authentic and what's not.
Yeah, if you were trying to explain to these kids and, teach a lesson or just give life lessons on something you didn't kind of relate to or have like experience in, it wouldn't be nearly the same, obviously. So how did like training, because obviously that's kind of what we, have meshed together and like, how did you work out? Did you high school, like you were mixed martial arts, like was there a gap over nothing? Did you play football or anything like that?
I did not play football. That's one of my biggest regrets about
doing
that in high school. Yeah. I played hockey until I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Another regret, which I should have stayed with. But after, going to the hospital there, I wasn't athletic at all.
Yeah.
I also talk about that too, is giving up those outlets for athletics sometimes can be a huge predictor of what could happen next as far as our mental health, right? Because we need that connection and community, and those things are so important.
Definitely.
But yeah, I gained probably 100 and some odd pounds. And afterwards, I was a smoker. I was using drugs recreationally. And I had to lose like 120 pounds, which I did probably over the course of about 18 months. But that started with running and sprints and stuff like that over here in Harris Park. And I would just force myself to go and just do short walks.
So until then, you were in a gym, like a little bit, whatever.
Back in 2006, and I pushed a little bit of weight because I thought that's, I learned that in high school in the gym.
So, but when the kind of it turned the corner, you started with the cart, just lose as much weight as I can, basically as fast as I can, or not fast, but like just at whatever kind of rate you could, and
whatever I could, and like it was a journey for sobriety mostly.
Cool.
And I was struggling with alcoholism. I mean, I could not go to sleep without being drunk at that point.
Yeah.
I was blacking out all the time. I think it was really struggling legally with a number of issues.
Sure.
So, I had to like clean up stuff. And so, quitting smoking was first, and learning how to manage and moderate alcohol actually came last. That was the toughest thing that I did. Drugs.
Yeah, I can believe it. I have a few friends that,
Yeah, it was very tough. And I didn't have really any guidance or anything like that. Nobody was stepping in and saying, this is how you do it. It's just like, what do you do, right? And it's so socialized and normal for people.
Just to so do you think, is it kind of on both ends? Like, was there not much out there, or is it just like you didn't know? Kind of probably like a lot of people, like they're just naive to it. And then
I think with trauma in life, we just have the idea that ill-adapted kind of coping mechanisms creep up that we use.
And then you're just in yourself cycle kind of thing.
You're in this habitual cycle, and it is about your habits, and it's about who you identify as, and your behavior is all relative to that. And my habits were structured in the opposite direction.
Totally. That makes absolute sense.
Covering up shame and not believing that. So when you learn about addiction, you learn about reversing that cycle of shame and using self-love to kind of feel a lot better about life and about how to love other people.
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually.
It was kind of serendipitous for a bit there. Like, I don't know how I arrived really at that point, but it was through hope and belief.
So just then cardio and, just get sobriety kind of that you shifted focuses a little, like as far as like.
I think I fell back in line with who I thought I once was.
Yeah.
I looked at myself in some old pictures and said, like, you used to have this and this going on. And whether you want to believe it or not, you're still that same kid who had innocence once upon a time. You don't have to lean into drugs all the time, and you can find a way out of this. And I fortunately had amazing parents who, helped me through very dark times.
Sure.
We had certain falling out and things like that, but they had led by an example of, like, my mom worked for 40 years in the airline business. I mean, my dad, both my parents, single parents, but living with my dad, he budgeted all the money we had, you know what I mean? And it showed me how to do that. And, cycled his groceries up a hill in the snow just so we could have food. And we lived in poverty and things like that. So having that example for me, it showed me that I could get through those tough times. And also martial arts guided that in big part. So having the discipline and learning how to work hard and big time, being honorable to myself and other people and those things. And I think one great quote that I think we both know from Joe Rogan is that martial arts is like a vehicle for human potential.
For sure.
And in large, that was just a part of my story. So that helped me a great deal. But yeah, having that support was absolutely critical.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So then when did you kind of did you fall in love? Are you love the training, or is it more of just like a part of a tool that you use? Like, but it's something you need to do, or you love training, you love all that. It's a big part of you, who you are.
There's not much about it that I don't like. I think the biggest thing for me is the mental strength that comes from it. You know, I could really care less at the end of the day, you know, how many veins I have through my biceps and stuff like that. If I feel sharp, if I feel happy about me pushing through that resistance and being honest with myself when I leave the gym, that's good enough for me.
Just those mind barriers that you go through every workout is like, do you think that many people work out that way?
I don't know.
Like in terms of, I can see that being a big tool for someone, you know, trying to stay on the right track or whatever that 100%. Your right journey pertains to. But I don't think many people have that mindset pertaining to training, you know, like I think so too. I think we undervalue how much community there is and how much connection you get socially from the gym. Yeah, big time.
And with depression and with trauma and addiction, like the opposite of addiction is not abstinence and not using at all. It's actually connection with people and the different social factors that we see. So I say that now because I have a career and I work around social workers and I'm a team lead of a mental health program, but I didn't know that stuff at the time. But I think a lot of us would benefit from keeping that in mind. You know, even if we come to the gym and have a good talk with somebody.
You know what? Even having said that myself, you're right. It's probably just a lot bigger picture than, of course, more people use the gym for mental health in whatever way that is, not necessarily pushing through the highest resistance of weight they can get to, I guess is what I was like.
Yeah, and I think it's all
because
relative.
it is.
I think everybody's doing the best that they can most of the time, but we do need to challenge ourselves further. And I think another thing people undervalue is how far they can fucking go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Always.
Like you still got probably another 40% in your tank. And, you know, sometimes it takes training partners and people around you to remind you of that and not show you that sympathy to, you know,
big time,
lead you to cower and back off. Like
big time.
You need to push further. And that fear is pretty seductive. Like you believe in that. And just being here with you and being here with Nick and being here with Heather and training, and you really get acquainted with another side of yourself when you push that far.
Definitely.
And that translates so much to your life.
100%. Yeah. It I guess it would suck for people to like go through that all and not get to that point where they push that, you know, just through those limitations that they have already set for themselves in 100%. Just pertaining to like, you know, training and stuff.
And I think that with our Instagram pages and the things that we share, we're often kind of normalizing that for people. And they may think, oh, this guy's fucking barbell rowing too much weight and he's going to ruin his back. But the fact is they're pushing themselves quite a lot.
Yeah.
And they're showing you that it is possible to go even further than you thought. And that's a great takeaway I think we can pull from this setting, like being in the gym. And I do think that it's a major tool for people as well. And I think that if you are going through it, as they say, you should probably, you know, number one, realize that there are ways to deal with that. There's lots of community programs and support out there, but exercise is often something you don't need any money to do. You can figure out body weight exercises.
Do you find yourself kind of turning, like, you know, pushing that on to people that are like you're talking to, like, for sure, if you know, if one of the students or, you know, your guests don't work out and stuff like that, that would be a huge step. And do you like say that it's like just go do some push-ups, sit-ups?
It's a major step. I mean, I've had people in the house struggling with alcoholism who, you know, used to train, and I've done workouts with them and seen them like turn a new corner and become somebody different
another
in like 20 minutes.
You would.
And they have no fixed address, they have no home, and here we are doing a banded workout in a living room.
And they've just made this revelation.
And
somehow.
Now they're talking about buddies from their past who used to lift with them.
Yeah.
But that's that sense of community again.
For sure.
Now they're coming back to their roots, and like that's pretty powerful too. But
do you go times like, do you feel like you struggle when you don't, have there been times where you don't 100%. When you're not working out? Like I know you went away, like for instance, I know you went on a road trip and stuff like that. Like even if you like, it's maybe referring to that. Like if you go and you're going on a vacation, stuff like that, is it still like time and place for vacation, or is it like something that you're seeking out kind of on days like, man, if I had a workout today, I'd be a better person? Or, you know, is it time and place for vacation or time off?
It's, you know what, it's so interwoven into my life that it's just a part of my day.
Yeah.
I have to just, at least if it's 20 minutes, that's fine. If I'm walking up a set of stairs and doing a couple banded workout,
that's true. You do that. There you go. Yeah. I know
something.
that about you already. I kind of answering that. You probably did just do some stuff on the go.
I think that's important. I think you're kind of the same way. You're repetitious.
Yeah.
You know, I always see you, no matter if you're working out or you're here, you're doing something. I always see you cleaning something. You're always on top of something. I don't ever see you complacent and stop moving. And I think I'm the same way. It's just, I have to do that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just something I owe to myself, because that helps my lens so much for life.
Yeah.
And then I'm a better person to other people. And it's not just about me, but I think that, yes, we can get carried away with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get sucked into doing too much, and then we step back and we're like, what was the return on the investment there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting, but
especially mentally at some point, it's like,
yeah, I think the more advanced you get, the more you realize that there's ways to do it like less time, and there's ways to do workouts more efficiently, and you can recover more efficiently and eat better and things like that. So it's not too over consuming for your life, but I do think it's a necessity for people. And for me, as an addict in my life, I've transitioned away from behavioral addictions and substance addictions, and more or less kind of found myself back in a behavioral addiction, which is the gym. And I'm okay with that because it has not too many adverse.
And if it's making you a better person, I mean, like how can you argue that?
At least I think it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. Like, yeah. Okay. I want to, how deep do you go into like what's out back and stuff like that? Can I even bring that? Yeah.
Bring up whatever you want.
So like cause I'm sure that's a huge part. Like when did, forgive my ignorance again, did you just call that be a graffiti artist?
Well, I once was. The stuff that you see, so there's no such thing as legal graffiti.
Sure.
So
even if you give permission back here to do it,
that's graffiti influenced, I would say, right? But
okay.
So
educate me.
On your property, that would be me creating art for you.
Sure.
I love creating art.
So what's graffiti?
Graffiti art would be vandalism.
Okay.
So graffiti art is like the actual pursuit of damaging, people's property.
Yeah.
There's really no crafty paradox to explain the whole thing. There's no easy way out of explaining why that's a good idea or something like that, but it is very conducive to helping people as an antidepressant in many cases. I'll say that.
So like how deep do you go into that? Like when did that become a part of your, like from a young kid, were you always like fucking around, or is it something that you developed when you're at a certain point in your life?
I started probably learning about what graffiti looked like when I was a kid on basketball courts. Like when I was playing basketball as a kid, and I would see stuff in the East End. I see various graffiti and stuff like that. But
and that just was like you were intrigued by that naturally.
So because my grandmother used to take me to Business Depot, and she would get me like calligraphy pens and fountain pens, and she would teach me how to cursive write.
Okay.
And so I used to love that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a big part of my life. And then when I learned about graffiti, I was like, well, these guys are basically using giant fountain pens on walls.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of carryover there.
Sure.
But I think with, what I've learned about myself, and I think a lot of people can say this too, we just kind of have a need to express ourselves.
Outlets, definitely.
Outlet, right?
Yeah.
And if you have this dying urge to communicate, graffiti is an ill form of communication, bottom line. People are seeing it. It resonates with them sometimes. You see it on the trains. People are risking their freedom. They're not doing these things for money. They're doing it because they love those things, and they're having fun doing it. And they also have a sense of community. I can't say that graffiti really makes everybody's life better. It actually does not do that. But I do believe firmly that you can forge pretty meaningful relationships with the people that you see in very tough circumstances.
That use the same outlets as you at that point. Yeah.
So it's like when I was writing graffiti, I had, a crew of people, a group of friends, and we did those things because we just loved doing it. We weren't seeing returns on it. But ultimately, we, sold our work in galleries. A lot of the murals that you see downtown, we had a hand in painting. Anything that's graffiti related in town here, I either helped paint or knew somebody in my group that would have painted.
Is it a small community? Like, could you pretty much go anywhere in the city and like, other than, I guess there's probably a small percentage of stuff that's just like kids fucking around that aren't graffiti artists per se, but like, is it a small enough community that you could just pretty much go anywhere in the city and recognize something, or no, not even?
Yeah, like I haven't written graffiti for many years, but like I definitely can pick up on, for instance, I could walk in somewhere and take a look at somebody's graffiti and tell you maybe where that was influenced from.
Okay.
Right? You can take a look at lettering. Now, what many people don't know is that lettering and typography that's adapted for graffiti has been reinvented and redone since the 70s. So there's really no font style or anything that's too unique. I mean, there's many times when, yes, people have improvised and made some pretty cool shit. But along the way, we can track it back to say that most of it has already been laid out like a blueprint, and people are kind of putting a bit of a flex or doing different things with it to create a new version of it. And that's what, and graffiti is not hip hop, but graffiti is contained within the, I guess you could say, the elements of hip hop. But there's just different spin-offs and reinventions of things from graffiti that happen over time. And one of those things is lettering.
Yeah.
And
so those murals and stuff, like the stuff that you do see like downtowns, like in other cities, even obviously specifically here, are murals like that generally done by like people from that in like graffiti artists, like working on buildings, or like artists commissioned to come the other way?
So once upon a time, it was that graffiti artists who wrote on subway trains, say in New York City, were maybe commissioned to do what we call productions on walls, which are murals.
So it's still even just a common, like is once you get past that, people still don't have a hard time morally hiring graffiti artists to come paint walls, like, or is it just like a thing that people just look past, right? Like, I don't think it's a technical thing. Like,
well, I should kind of clarify that, because you had people painting full murals on subway cars. I mean, you had people doing art that was, you could put it up against anything at the time, and it was as impressive, and it was illegal.
Oh, illegal. Those aren't commissioned things at that point.
And let's not forget, these people were racking and boosting and stealing all the spray paint, all those 50 cans, kids that lived in poverty in the projects, and then went to the subway and painted these masterpieces to then take that art and then put it in galleries. And there's a lot of culture vultures out there that took that stuff and made money off that, right? But then again, there's a lot of curators and people that kept it pure and believed in those people and put them on. Those people have gone on to run clothing brands and work for Nike and, Supreme, and do all sorts of amazing things, right? But it all started with the pure form of expression and like actually writing stuff on walls and subway cars. Right?
Because even just my brief introduction to it being like at the back of the building, kind of just giving an open canvas, and there's a lot of mutual respect. I feel like even you guys, when you see what's back there, all this, go over here, like don't do this or do this.
That was actually interesting, because when we painted your property there at the back, we saw stuff that was back from, like, we want to estimate from 93 or 95. And we had there was the NES crew, which is one of the first originating graffiti crews in London, Ontario. And we saw their work. We saw like another artist named Don't Say, who is probably the first writer in all of London, Ontario, who's still, been active for all these years. Incredible guy. And then
still here?
And he's still in town, I believe.
Did you get him back there? Has he been back there yet?
I haven't had contact with him in many years, but like just seeing that stuff on those walls, we like as homage,
tells a story.
You got to like pay respect. Like, I'm not going to go over your shit from 93. So we had to do stuff around it in hopes that somebody wouldn't diss our shit. So strategically they wouldn't touch that shit. So we were trying to like preserve and
cool.
It was a bit of an act to kind of,
but even even just being that aware and like that, like preserve that is cool. And I have a look at this. So the owner of the building, I don't think I've talked to you about this yet. The owner of the building, his daughter is like sketching, likes doing stuff with markers. So the sea cans over there.
Okay.
He was, and we're how we're moving in, expanding into the back.
Yeah, for sure.
He was mentioning that she wanted to do something on the sea cans and like she wanted to spray paint, but I was like, I'm gonna have her come and meet with you guys one day, because like, look at this is her. I think she's young. Like I want to say 10 to 12.
Oh shit.
Type of thing.
She's into this. That's dope.
But like, you can't open them up.
What?
But yeah, like look at some of that. It's like,
yo, that's fresh.
I searched it, so you can't actually like expand it unless I go to the conversation.
Yo,
but cool, eh? Like I was like,
hell yeah.
I was like, Richard, even if you told me she wasn't like, you know, and I'd be like, do it. But
do it up, man. Like,
so that'll be coming, and hopefully, like, because I was even saying, so basically what I'm saying is I would want to ask you guys before I say, like, hey, yeah, like, open invite, as I said to you, and her just, like, go on and, like, go over that one spot where no one was supposed to be.
Graffiti has a rich history of respecting other people's artwork and also destroying other people's artwork. Yeah. And it's always been a sport. It's a full contact sport because people get into it with each other. You know what I mean? Like if you put something up on a wall and somebody comes along and they write over your stuff, that's them calling you out right away. You have to fight at that point.
Is there like, is there
a lot of bravado attached to graffiti? It's been like that since the beginning. Yeah. It's a street thing. Right.
And kind of a lot of people's added like just stages. And
I've been into it with a lot of people over the years, and like, that's just one part of the game.
Yeah.
Like you had to defend your territory. At the end of the day, people want these spots. Like if you have a rooftop spot, if you have a highway spot, like people are risking their neck.
Sure.
I was talking to my mom. Actually, we were laughing about this because she sent me a photo of some guy in Brazil shimmying across this giant I-beam
just to get to this
20
one
stories
spot
above just to write his name. And I remember saying to her in the conversation, I was like, Mom, did you know, like, back in 2008, I shimmied across the Oxford Extension Bridge and blah, blah, blah. And she just goes, oh,
I'm never sending you another
bugger. She got so mad, right? Because she didn't know these things. But yeah, so it's like people come along and then they take out your spot, and it's like you have to do something.
Is there like,
or reach some common understanding?
Yeah,
which has happened
do something together instead.
Well,
like,
sometimes writers meet up and they see each other and they're like, "Oh, you're not some skinny like."
Because you wouldn't necessarily know, right? You're just going by what you see on the wall.
You might be at a spot painting and you see people coming down the tracks. I remember being on the tracks. We were just talking about this the other night. This is like 15 years ago. I remember being on the tracks. We were finishing up, and these kids came down with bricks in their hands, and they thought that we were these people that they were looking for. And turns out we were the people they were looking for, but they didn't expect to see us, and we were like a little bit older, bigger guys and stuff like that. But it was pretty awkward. You know what I mean?
How the demeanor changes.
It changes quickly. You know, people got to back up what they're saying. But I mean, I'm not into those types of things anymore. But as young kids with egos running around, that's the type of shit.
Sometimes you want that to happen. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to make a name for yourself somehow.
So I have because I walk down here on the, like, so what about the people that just, I feel like it's a matter of as many places as they can put their 4-letter name, the better. Like, isn't that, I can't see that being productive even in like a graffiti environment.
So
like, would you walk down there and be like, why the hell is blank writing his name so many times other than to be an asshole?
Well, that's just it, man. From the outside looking in, it's one of those things where if you've never done it in your life, and also you're not fueled by that addiction within you to do that.
Okay.
Right?
Perspectives.
You may be coping through a lot. I don't know. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, it's just a rush. It's an adrenaline thing. We call it like getting over. But a lot of times that, you know, might scratch an itch, whereas like painting an actual spot, like a billboard or a rooftop, with something more colorful, maybe something in line with, you know, what my partner and I did for your space downstairs, down there. Yeah. So there's just different ways to do it, but everybody expresses themselves differently. And yeah, some graffiti's fucking whack.
It's not even like whack necessarily. It's just like, again, it looks like you walk down a couple kilometers and it's like, you just tried to put your name on as many places as you could.
Yep.
And
yeah,
I don't know. I guess like
it's taught to people as part of the game. It's like a rite of passage. So if you don't have a tag, you know, it's like your smile that greets the world. You got to have that. Then you build up to a bubble letter, which we call a throw up. From there, you have a straight letter, which are remarkably difficult to do in a simple style and make them look well. Like
yeah.
And then from there, you got like a burner, which is a couple different colors and maybe some bends of the letters. And then you want to build up to an actual piece, and then a production. So there's steps involved. But if you're a young person coming up, you're probably just going to do your tag, and you're going to, you know, that's going to be
do it as many places you can get it. So how many guys or girls get to the point, like, or even seek out, have not aspirations, but have the desire to get, like, you know, commissioned pieces, whether it's in, like, I know Noel did it in, like, you know, these nice garages or gyms or whatever it is. I mean, it could the possibility. Do a lot of people get to that point? Because I feel like at that point you have to be like maybe not fit the mold of a typical like graffiti artist.
We were fortunate that there was people in this city that were like running galleries and things like that were interested in our work, but that was never part of the game for us.
Mm-hmm.
We actually lived above a gallery. I had an apartment downtown on Dundas Street with a friend. And we used to create, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we live together?
No, we didn't.
Oh,
but
shit.
I lived above Runner's Choice.
Oh shit. Okay.
Above that gallery.
Okay.
On
Dundas.
Dundas.
I lived above a different gallery, coincidentally.
Must be
Dundas, by almost the corner of Clarence and Dundas.
Yeah.
So the restaurant down
That's
below,
where I was.
was it?
Runner's Choice is right there.
Wait a sec.
Runner's Choice.
At Clarence and Dundas?
Yeah.
No shit.
You know where the Runner's Choice is? You know where the
So I
pond
was
mark?
across the street from Runner's Choice, and I was above. And
You were on the other side. You were closer to the park.
Strano was my landlord.
You know where Runner's Choice was?
Yeah.
And you know where the
Yeah.
pawn shop was?
Yeah.
I lived above it. Like
Oh,
my door was
shit.
like right there. So we probably looked above it.
Yo, that's why.
That's
What
funny.
year was that?
This was me and Jade were there. I don't know, 6 years ago maybe.
That's crazy. So Michelangelo's, the restaurant that was down there.
Yeah.
He used to open it up for a gallery every
Cool.
month. So we would spend the whole month doing our canvases. Now that wasn't our priority, but you made a chunk of change at the end of the month.
Did you sell them?
Yeah,
You
we
sell
sold
like
a
did
lot
you
of work.
do you get paid to do them, or it's like bring your work here and then if it sells you get it?
It was both. So we would actually go in and the curator would put the work up, and then we would have like a DJ come in and we would just throw a party and people
Mm-hmm.
could purchase the art throughout the night. And it was really well done, and we had it for a number of years.
Have you done anything like that recently?
I have not. I've sold a couple pieces here and there. I work on pieces all the time at home, but yeah, I haven't done that in a long time.
You should do one up here.
I would fucking love to do that.
We could just lace them all around the whole thing.
Would you let me paint the TV?
Yeah, sure. This one's old. We could TV. If someone wants to take the TV,
No, I'm not painting the TV.
but like
No.
we should.
No,
see
I
about
mean,
that.
yeah, and it was lucrative. It was a lucrative pursuit, and then that moved into City Plaza where he had a gallery. It was called Art Fusion.
Okay.
And so we sold a lot of work and did that routinely. But yeah, that was never the primary focus, but it turned out to be a lucrative.
And if it's an avenue, I mean, like if
At this stage with my painting and my art and stuff, I don't really have any urge to go out and vandalize somebody's property. All my time on art is spent purely as just an outlet in my apartment, painting various things. And
but you still like to get like again, probably not the same itch, but like it's like I do know that it's like you will come here on times where it just like makes sense for you to want to come and stuff like that.
1,000%. I was out here in minus 15 with the wind chill.
And I was like, is it like
No, it's the worst.
odd things, right? You might be like the paint just might be extra. The colder it is, the crisper it
Yeah,
is.
I actually threw the paint in the front of the car and
warm it up.
and then I ran out and grabbed it so I could do my outline because I wanted to keep it warm.
I was like,
but,
who knows, man?
Yeah.
Just do your thing.
the shit
but
we do to stay happy, man. Yeah, it was funny, but yeah, that's a little bit about that. But I absolutely love making art, so yeah. And Noel is exceptionally talented, and just as a partner, he's been my partner for so many years, and he's always thinking a few steps ahead, and he's so practical. And for all of his talent, he's just the most humble guy. Like you met him,
yeah, absolutely. You would
wouldn't
never
expect
like
that guy, and he used to destroy stuff. Like he has such a reputation.
really.
We were looking at old footage the other day, and like I don't even know what that guy. I don't know how they made him. Like,
But even then, it just relates. Like again, some of the pieces I know him to do in other places is wild too.
I just love that you can be like so inspired by your own friends. Like I just
Yeah.
love that feeling of like looking around and being like, damn man, you did that.
Yeah.
Like I know you. Like
Totally.
that's just even our friend Rob. Our friend Rob's the same way. He's like renowned like across North America. He's amazingly talented. Does illustrations and cartoons and all this stuff. And I just sit back and I'm like, I fucking know you, man. Like
Crazy.
that's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So when's your next? Do you have like a lot of talk, or I guess what do you call them, talks, or like present? Like
I'm gonna do one I think at Guelph University coming up, and I'm just trying to tee up time because we've been hiring people like crazy at work because of the pandemic. We lost a bunch of people through resignations, and I won't say because of the pandemic, just in general.
yeah,
But that's taken up a lot of time. So as soon as we can fill those gaps with coverage, I've been invited to go speak to the students there. I just want to do it in
pull
person.
this up out a little bit.
I just want to do it in
Yeah,
person
that'd be better.
because I don't want to just do it through a virtual Zoom thing.
Yeah, I know. Did you do a lot of that? I was like,
I
haven't
do that all the time
really.
for work.
I haven't.
I
I don't even have Zoom on any of my shit. I was like, I maybe had to make one Zoom call.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that. I actually have to pace myself and step away from like today I was working at home and I'm just like, yo, I gotta step back. Like, I don't know how we stare at screens this much. It's not natural.
So you've been pretty much out of the office for the last
well,
year and a half?
I work frontline 3 days a week, and then
okay.
2 days a week I'm supposed to be like working from home, which I have been, but it has been kind of alternating back and forth to this site, but we have to respect all these mandates. So it's like you're doing the dance back and forth, but yeah, it's a lot, man. Meeting after meeting.
Do you ever do, maybe you don't even have time. What about podcasts and stuff like that? Like, because I feel like you and you like,
well, actually the
more outlets, the better, like, or even pertaining to, your talks and
the last one that I did actually came because I got COVID. And so I did a video podcast on my Instagram, which I still have up, and it's like a longer version of just like explaining resources and things to do with mental health, which I find really fun to do, which have some utility in helping people. So I've always liked to do that kind of thing, but I would like to take that more seriously, that you can reach more people, just having a recurring, timeline of doing it. I think you and Rory were talking about that, is just setting the intention to have
just
content, just boom, boom, boom.
Consistency, I guess. Yeah. It's just, excuse me. Yeah, that consistency, but like that, you can't do that unless you like what you're doing. And like at this point, like with your, like those stuff you talk about, and like at the very beginning stages of this, for me, it's like, that's not even in the question. It's like, that's a passion and something we easily like doing and, have, deep rooted passion in.
Yeah. I find with your talks, you're so engaging, like, how to just get somebody going and talking. Which is, I don't know, were you always like that?
No, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's not really. It's just, I keep contributing back to like the environment. Like me and you sat down now and like, if we sat down playing, like these are just, I think it'll be more interesting once I start having people in that I don't know at all. Or like, more of like not like guests for certain purposes, but even then I'm like, I don't know, because I've had a few people, maybe a few people that I don't necessarily know on a level like you or I, or a lot of the other people that have come in, and I'm like, some of those are the exciting ones, because as soon as you get past like everything else and it's just a conversation, I'm naturally curious about a lot of things. So it's just like it's even all the stuff that I don't know, like we know each other pretty well, but we don't know each other really, like as far as basically all the stuff you kind of just told me, other than like the surface that we would have discussed for 10 minutes passing here and there. So I don't know, I think it's just like there's no stress for this on me or anything, like expectations. So it's easy to do.
I think you're pretty well established in a lot of your pursuits anyway, so it's like you've got all those plates spinning, and it's like, this is just
fun venture, and
you can just naturally, like, again, it's just about, you get to express yourself and talk, and it's like, that's a pretty natural endeavor, right? So
do you have like a ultimate goal as far as like what you see yourself being able to provide to people? Like, do you want, I don't know, I know it's a vague question, but like,
I think right now in my career, I'm in this position where I can kind of analyze the system as we know it for people that are like vulnerable, people that are struggling, whether it be homelessness or mental illness or going through different stages of their recovery. And I'm kind of seeing it through the lens of this mental health agency where I work at CMHA.
Okay.
So I'm getting a good feel for the paradigm, if you will, of how this all works. Mm-hmm. And so, I'd like to maybe adapt some of my own takes on health and things like that and implement them. And
is it unrealistic for someone like you to have your own program and stuff like that, or is it you just want to try and bring what you have into a certain organization already?
I don't think that it's unrealistic. I think that in a huge way, like I'm part of I work closely with our manager, who's just a phenomenal leader and taught me so much in a short amount of time. And then we have like the team, and then we're integrated within the crisis center as well. So we have like a lot of opportunity to change quite a lot.
And that's kind of, you structure that program to be what your team wants it to be. Is there many, like, you only have 95% of it's like already systemized and everything, and then you guys have this like,
in large
what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is systemized in a huge way. And I think with our you know, as the management changes, you'll see changes happen. But I think that we're going to see, like, we're transitioning back to the crisis center because they're doing renovations, and it's going to be quite the expansion for our program.
Yeah.
But I think with that, there's going to be big opportunity to change quite a lot of different things. So, you know, it is, for me, it's about the prevention aspect. So it's like, if we're not equipping people with like learning how to work out and learning about their nutrition and learning how to catch warning signs, mindfulness. I mean, I'm a big proponent of meditation. Those things are so critical in helping a person not go down the wrong path, right? But in crisis work, we're often just catching it at the last minute and just kind of guiding you and mitigating with some damage control and making sure you're taken care of, connecting you.
Totally.
But I would like to see more on the preventative side. And that takes a belief in kind of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
And kind of saying like, yep, it'll take some extra work to go to the gym today or to meditate, but that pays dividends because, you know, there's a return on the investment. I can't see it right now, but we'll see it.
So what's the best way that's implemented other than like, is it, you see it making its way into more schools? Like obviously mental health is becoming more and more and more and more. Like I think it's on a steady incline of as far as awareness and like prevention.
I think we're getting there. I think that the funding, like from the very top altitude, if we want to look at it, you see that like certain research projects are more incentivized and more like sexy, if you will, to put money towards.
Yeah.
They just make more sense.
Yeah.
With the mental health and the subjectivity that comes with it, sometimes people can't see that as the right avenue to sink the dollars into.
Yeah.
And so with stigma being the way that it is, and we are breaking it down, and in large part, that's what my efforts have been on social media with my page Chalk and Consistency. I try to push that and show people and be very open with people about my struggles. But I see that stigma is breaking down. I see that we're opening up those channels and more people are coming forward. So to answer your question, the fight is to get more people help and to do more things for other people. And if that means taking a pay cut and doing the social work thing and going down that avenue for as long as I can, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm driven. Those are my values.
Yeah.
That's what I believe in. So,
and you know, I'm definitely like to think it all kind of pays itself off in the end when whatever that measure is for you.
Whatever that measure is. And some of us get a lot out of the work that we do, right? There's like that increased well-being through just doing the work. And you know, some of us are purely driven by numbers and trying to get our bank accounts a certain way. And I fully appreciate that. But, you know, with certain work that we do in the community, you may leave that day feeling completely drained, or you may feel like, holy shit, I just helped change somebody's life.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Like that, you can't buy that feeling.
No, I can only imagine. And it's just on those days you feel accomplished. It's just, it's
something else. So yeah, that's kind of it. But as far as long-term goals go, I do have those, but for me, I just kind of work on trying to be happy, like in the moment, like with what I'm doing. The present is something that I try to like just be okay with.
Yeah.
You know?
Perfect.
And so I think for a number of years struggling with mental illness and addiction for me, I almost felt like I didn't have future orientation. Like I wasn't always thinking of down the line. It was more or less just let me get through this and I'll see what the afternoon brings kind of thing.
Totally.
But now that I have a system in place for dealing with what I have and I'm fairly confident with it, I don't really think like that anymore. You know, I'm able to think longer term.
Yeah. And just
like
appreciate what is there, not necessarily what trying to get right through it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Absolutely.
You got anything else? We should do this. Like if you ever want to have someone like else on, or like if you want to if you need an outlet, you're more than welcome to bring someone on and I'm, step out, or we can do a little 3 or 4 or 5 person thing.
I was thinking like maybe not. I won't bring Alex Jones for the first one.
Well,
like,
whatever.
If that's like in the cards, it could be.
If he's in town or something, maybe.
Just so we could press him on a number of his beliefs and then
see if we went to the moon
get
or
him canceled again.
Yeah. No, but seriously, if you ever want to use it, and I just awesome. I'd love to have this as a regular thing because
that's awesome, bro.
I mean, there's lots you could do. Like every different time, you could anyone from any realm of that what we just talked about to bring them in, or
that's dope.
I don't know, how it goes. So
I think those are good things to talk about. Next time, I want to ask you a bunch of questions, but I just want to finish with something though. We know that you're eventually going to take over and dominate all of downtown, everything you have going on.
I'm out of space soon.
I think the members just want to know, like, when are you going to get the helicopter pad and eventually just?
No, I want to put a patio up here.
Are you actually?
Wow, it's a kind of a joke, but like there's skylights right there, right? Like all through there.
Oh my God.
And like every summer, like me and Jade or whatever up here were like, it'd be pretty easy to cut that out, put a ladder down there, and just like dude, there's this thing that like the amount of stuff you can see from these buildings now in the tracks. I'm skeptical of like really going 2 balls out there, but people have really joked about adding more floors and stuff. But no, I'm tapped out of space pretty soon. We're trying to see what's available
this
at the end of the street
amazing.
soon.
I love this spot, but yeah, I mean, if you want to put a squat cage up there, it's all good, man.
We're gonna try and do those. You'll have to think of it too. Those sea cans at the side. We're gonna move them and try and either pile them on top of each other.
Oh shit!
And like kind of create a little.
That's dope.
Outdoor space and stuff back there. So there'll be some brainstorming once that summer weather comes around.
No, I love being here at Showtime. I think I've said that many times, but yeah, it's been an awesome place to train and great group of people here. It's nice when, you know, real athletes run gyms. Like actually,
I don't consider myself an athlete. I've been doing a little more cardio lately, but like,
know, bro. I don't know. We had that discussion. Remember? I think Nick leaned in. He's like, you know, Ian deadlifted 7 plates.
Oh, that's a different person now. Like, God, no, I just hurt thinking about that. So
I was like, damn. And then I turned to you. I was like, yo, Ian, did you deadlift 7 plates? He's like, yeah, 7 plates. And I was like, well, that pretty much summarizes that. But
once upon a time,
I think businesses like gyms in general, and you see that a lot of times when there's not athletes like running the place.
It's different.
And it's not really on. Sometimes it's not by no fault of their own. Maybe
I'm super lucky too. And you know it just as much as I do, as far as everyone, I don't make, it's the community here that makes it like what it is. And like just the whole setup, and it's unique. So I think people that like mesh into it more than they would. So
for sure. Well, maybe we'll have Nick on next time.
Seriously. Yeah. Let's do that. We'll get Nick and, well, just Nick, or anyone else.
I just want to know how much creatine or how much citrulline he's really taking.
You never know.
I don't think
he's going to tell you. Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Bro.
Till next time.
All right. Peace.